Welcome to Leaders' Question.
Thank you, Ceann Comhairle. So, Taoiseach, I wanted to ask what your intention is in relation to the traditional St. Patrick's Day visit to the White House. This morning we read that you intend to send a high-powered delegation, particularly focused on business. And I just wanted to ask you, Taoiseach, is there anything that President Trump can do that will actually change that, that would prevent you going? Is there any fresh hell that he can actually unleash for you to decide? Is there some reason you can't hear me, Taoiseach? I said fresh hell that he can unleash. Yeah. And he actually announced his intention to unleash hell on Gaza over the weekend. So Ireland doesn't have a lot of power globally, but we do have the power not to give President Trump a photo op on an important day for Ireland globally, and not to normalise what he was doing. And I want to ask you, Taoiseach, do you actually agree that what President Trump is proposing for Gaza is actually ethnic cleansing, would amount to a war crime? Do you actually agree with that? Because if you do, and if you go on St. Patrick's Day for a business-as-usual traditional trip, you are normalising President Trump. You are normalising what he is doing. He has demonstrated the preparedness of the oligarchs that he's put into power to sacrifice the world and the people in it for profit, and to take away the desire of the Palestinian people, their right to their traditional homeland. For what? For grubby profit, for real estate, for himself and for the people that he represents, trod over the blood and bones of the children and the people of Gaza. Trump has declared war on the Palestinian people, and I've yet to hear you or your cabinet make any condemnation of that whatsoever. So when President Trump, being the most powerful leader of the most powerful capitalist country in the world, announces a policy based on debased morals, that is war on human rights and on democracy. It is not a normal business as usual. Taoiseach, is this an era where you can turn a blind eye? Is this an era where you can ignore the plight of the Palestinian people, the Holocaust that they're facing? What you could do instead is this. You could go to the US, you could build links, you could show solidarity to those who are facing Trump's terror, the trans community that are being erased, the undocumented that are being deported in handcuffs, the brown ones for starters, the workers and students having their jobs in education slashed by unelected oligarch Musk. Because you know the famous poem, "First they came for." And I have not heard you show any condemnation or solidarity with those groups. I ask you to take a leaf out of the book of Reverend Marion Edgar Budd, who called out Trump publicly to his face.
Could I first of all say that St. Patrick's Day has for many years been a very substantive opportunity and occasion for Ireland globally and in the United States to engage with decision makers, to engage with its own communities, diaspora. We have a very substantial diaspora in the United States, and it's extremely important that we continue to work with our diaspora, but that we also work on our relationship with the United States. And President Trump is democratically elected. He was elected by the people of the United States. And one cannot ignore that reality. The economic relationship between Ireland and the United States is extremely significant. It's €1 trillion. There are about 220,000 jobs in Ireland, dependent people, workers, who work in US multinational companies, and a further 170,000 associated jobs. So it's a huge part of our economy. Now, Irish companies create about 115,000 jobs in the United States. And there are opportunities for Irish companies who export to the United States as well. Now, you're asking me to ignore all of that. And I'm always intrigued by the hard left approach, which just ignores our economic model and just somehow thinks it's going to happen anyway. You probably don't agree with it if you're honest. You're more interested in the concept of working people in terms of a conceptual, but not actually the workers. So you want me literally to jettison any concern for the workers in this country, ignore any risks to their livelihoods, and just plough ahead being virtuous and having a particular view. But I have a duty as Taoiseach also to protect workers in this country and to protect economic relationships with other countries, not just the United States, but other countries with whom we may not agree with in terms of their policies and orientation. On the Middle East, I would ask you to talk to the Palestinian Authority. Ask them what is their view of Ireland and the Irish government's response to the war on Gaza and to the Middle Eastern conflict. We've been solidly two-state solution supporting that. We've recognised the state of Palestine along with Norway, Spain and Slovenia as part of the Arab Peace Initiative. We have more than most doubled down in supporting UNRWA in terms of the very practical work of getting aid to Palestinians in a time of hell on earth in Gaza. And in our view, we need to consolidate the ceasefire. That's the most important issue right now for people in Gaza. Hamas need to release the hostages. They do. And Hamas's role in this has been malign. And that needs to be acknowledged. Israel
Thank you, Taoiseach.
needs
Thank
to
you, Taoiseach.
honour
Deputy
its side of the
Coppinger to
agreement.
respond. Thank you, Taoiseach.
Progress has been made on the ceasefire.
Thank you, Taoiseach.
Aid is
Time is
getting
up.
in.
Deputy
That's where the
Coppinger
focus has to be.
to respond.
So, Taoiseach, you didn't even answer one of the questions, the central question I asked. Do you agree that Trump's plan for Gaza is ethnic cleansing? Yes or no? Can you just answer that in your reply? I don't agree that we should have an economic policy that is dependent on staying silent on genocide. No, I think an economic policy that requires that is a flawed one. When you say consolidate the ceasefire, what Trump has announced doesn't consolidate a ceasefire. It makes it much more likely that the right-wing Zionists will actually not keep to a ceasefire because he's opened up the prospect now of taking over Gaza on something that they've always wished for. The diaspora is very important. I never mentioned once that we shouldn't meet the diaspora worldwide. I actually said we should make links, we should show solidarity. Taoiseach, would you accept you made an error of judgment before when you went to Israel in the very early days of the genocide and you pointed to a ceiling and a roof while Gaza was being flattened? Would you agree that if you go again and greet Trump and smile and hand over the bowl of shamrock, you'll be making another error of judgment and history will judge you on that?
To respond.
I think there was no error of judgment made, and it was not in the early days of any genocide. I visited Israel prior to October the 7th, and what is striking is your refusal to condemn October the 7th, or at least Deputy Murphy and your group. You have never, after October, but before the war started, okay? Now, in this House then, Deputy Boyd Barrett, I remember it memorably, asking me to help to get people out of Gaza, Irish citizens out of Gaza. At the same time, condemning me for visiting Israel. I mean, the hypocrisy and doublethink and doublespeak is extraordinary. We would not, the only way we got Irish citizens out of Gaza is because of the diplomatic relationship we maintained, the fact that we had an ambassador in Israel, an ambassador in Cairo, who worked extremely hard to get Irish citizens out of Gaza. You would have just pronounced don't go. But at the same time, would you please try and get people out? I'm sick of that kind of absolute doublethink and hypocrisy. And you mentioned that there. And so I'm not, if I get more time now,
Well, Taoiseach,
I just want to say further.
Now. Thank you. Thank you, Taoiseach. We move now.
Like, share, and subscribe, and let us know your thoughts in the comments. We'd love to hear from you.